What's up, friends, and welcome into Fantasy Pros. Today we are talking high upside fantasy football draft picks. And the only person that can do this properly for you is Jake Ciely from The Athletic, who is joining me here where we are talking high upside, maybe some high risk, post-hype sleepers, and a few more. Jake, we're not wasting any more time. Draft season, it's literally here. It's going to be gone before we know it. And you have got to put people in the right spots. This is all on you, Obi-Wan Jake Nobi. We are going to swing for the fences. We are talking a couple high upside players that might have some high risk. But you know what? I got the baseballs behind me, so what a proper analogy here to swing for the fences. Who are two players that you are doing so for?
I think there are two wide receivers swinging for the fences for differing reasons. One's a rookie, and that's being Travis Hunter. Look, there's the argument that Travis Hunter versus McMillan, who is a better prospect, and we could play that game all day long, but I think the fact is they were both tier one wide receivers, which is okay. But the question with Hunter, obviously, is going to the Jaguars. It's not just, is Liam Cohen going to fix this offense? It's not just, is Trevor Lawrence not going to be a bust at this point of his career? It's not just all the things that go alongside with it. And how, by the way, also this offense is predicated with an offensive coordinator who doesn't necessarily love to use rookies a ton. But it's the usage. Is that, what if he is used on defense? What if it's 10%, 20%, 30%? And then does that affect his offensive side of it? So I think that's really the biggest question with Hunter. Is he going to be 70% of the offensive snaps? Is it going to be 80, 90? And when I say that, I mean drop back snaps specifically. But even if he's in the 80% range, I think Hunter has the upside to be top 30, top 35. Like if you put McMillan alongside Brian Thomas, I'm not concerned about Brian Thomas, but I'm also not concerned about McMillan or Hunter. It's funny, and you know as well, it's just like everybody's out there, draft Higgins, draft Devonta Smith, draft Jaylen Waddle, draft Jameson Williams. What are those guys? A number two, number two, number two, number two. But Travis Hunter, if he is what we think he can be, why are we worried about the clear number two for the Jaguars outside of maybe it's a Trevor Lawrence issue? But if he plays 90% of the snaps and he's as good as advertised and Trevor Lawrence does take a step forward, Travis Lawrence has anything of what Baker Mayfield did last year, then Travis Hunter is going to be a top 25 wide receiver. So I'm going for him. Yeah. And then somebody who was not only top 25, he was top 20, top 15, top 10, top 5 in fantasy points per game before he got hurt, and that's Chris Godwin. I know we got report today, actually good timing for this as we're doing this show. I already had Godwin on the list, that he might not play until October. The good news is that most leagues, unless you have IR specifically, like they have to be put on IR in the NFL to be on your IR. Most leagues are not like that. Is you can stash Godwin on your IR until he's ready to go. And it's just the fact that I can play the waiting game and basically get a free draft pick out of it too, is that once he is healthy, once he is 100%, Chris Godwin, as we just saw, has top 5 upside. I don't think he's necessarily top 5 when he comes back, because Mike Evans is still a thing, and of course, Mika Ibuka. But still wide receiver 1 potential when he's back to healthy. His game still fits Baker Mayfield better. We were arguing for that last year. So I think both of them have a potential home run play with some risk.
You know what I think is really interesting about them, too, is that like both of those players about 6 weeks ago to 2 months ago were like the players that everybody was targeting. It was very exciting. Now that drafts are getting really close, people are really starting to fade. And I do think it's a little silly. You got to have a little bit of risk equity in your drafts, because the Travis Hunter thing, what I was going to say when you were talking about him is like, he's at best becoming wide receiver 3. It's a good spot to get him as a wide receiver 3. And Chris Godwin is pushing into a wide receiver 4. So there's a lot of balancing out your roster can do with this huge upside that I think these are, to me, it's a little bit more Travis Hunter than Chris Godwin with the injury, and Ibuka, I think, taking a big jump. So Travis Hunter would definitely be like my pick in here if I had to choose one for the high upside. But both of these players, they're almost like post-hype last 6 week type of draft picks, with all the upside. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not even post-hype
like you said,
sleepers.
6 weeks ago they're 4th, 5th rounders, and now they're like 6th, 7th, even 8th for Godwin.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a weird space. Speaking of post-hype sleepers, we're going to be talking about that. But first, weekly draft fantasy football is here. Welcome to Draft Battle, the only fantasy football platform where the draft is king. What's the best part about playing fantasy football? Anybody? The draft. So why do we only do it at the beginning of the season? At Draft Battle, you can enter snake draft contests every week, all season long. You heard that right. Draft Battle contests last 1 week only and have no season-long commitment. No salary caps, better odds, 8 teams per contest with a best ball format, which means no roster management, plus Superflex scoring and weekly payouts. Injuries derail your season-long league? Stay in the game all season long with Draft Battle. High stakes, weekly draft, fantasy football. Use promo code FANTASYPROS or visit draftbattle.com/fantasypros and receive $5 in bonus cash towards your first contest. That's draftbattle.com/fantasypros or redeem the promo code FANTASYPROS in your account page. Bonus cash is non-withdrawable, only available in select states. Visit draftbattle.com for details. Post-hype sleepers. I promised we would do it. Well, we've got two. Whether you look at these guys as like career disappointments or maybe multi-year disappointments for whatever reason, these are two post-hype sleepers that you are targeting in drafts this season. So kick us off.
Yeah, I'll go with the running back first here, and it's Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. And this is coming from somebody who hasn't been in on a lot of Jaylen Warren, especially past couple seasons. It's basically because what the Steelers have told us is they want Jaylen Warren as a timeshare piece. Like they don't want him as the lead. They don't want him to get 65, 70% of the work. Can he be the lead with a like a flip share of last year? Sure, that's possible. And when I say sure, it's possible, it's because Kenneth Gainwell is still getting run in the preseason ahead of Caleb Johnson, which is just baffling to me. Then why did you take Caleb Johnson there? Which leads me into the fact that I believe Caleb Johnson could end up becoming a value because I still think he is replacing Najee Harris. There's no question about that. But that's why I bring it up, because the question is what's going on with Caleb Johnson with the Kenneth Gainwell usage. But the question that doesn't exist is what is Jaylen Warren? And he's the pass-catching upside option in this offense. When it was Najee Harris, and now if it's Caleb Johnson, that's still an aspect of his game that's not as good as Jaylen Warren's. So I think that for people who were cool on him, like me, or have drafted him in past years and being like, man, I want more touches, and he just won't get them, well, now you might still get the same Jaylen Warren, but at a discount.
He's in that dead zone, too. He's in that little RB-ish dead zone, which like at the end of the 20s, the early 30s. I like this one even more in full PPR, but that is the thing. It's like Caleb Johnson's whatever he's going to step into should just be Najee Harris, and I don't think we can really project any downtick in Jaylen Warren. And Jaylen Warren was pushing those like nice 20, 25 to 20 at times, and he is going much later than that. So definitely a nice post-hype sleeper. You got a wide receiver, and I have seen you take him in multiple mock drafts we've done here on Fantasy Pros. I don't know if I've heard you talk a ton, but this has been sneakily someone you have been all over all season. So this post-hype wide receiver sleeper is
somebody who is costing you a wide receiver 4 price. That's why. It's because Chris Olave, who has been a wide receiver too. Actually, let's go back to Chris Olave's first few seasons, and people drafted him were like, oh my God, he could be a wide receiver 1. That was inflated. So I think Olave is falling into a perception situation, is that there's certain wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore for years, and it's like, oh my God, look how good they are. They're on the cusp of being a wide receiver 1. And they never get there, and that's okay. We can only have 12 wide receiver 1s every single year, and more often than not, we see those overlap with quite a few similar names year after year. So if Olave never gets there, that's fine. Does Olave potentially have the worst quarterback room in the league? Potentially, yes. Is Olave a concussion concern? Absolutely, 4 in 2 years. Is Olave still the best wide receiver in the Saints? I bet yes. I know some people will say Shaheed, and there's a discussion for that. I think Shaheed benefited a lot from what Kubiak did with that system and how he likes to get his wide receivers open downfield. So I think that loss and that change could go back to the fact of what has been the Ohio State wide receivers in general, underrated. Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, underrated. We get tired of talking about him. I feel like Chris Olave's fallen into we're tired of talking about him. We're tired of him not being a wide receiver 1. And now people are just tired of taking him, and because of the injury concerns. So is it potential that he gets a concussion and misses most of the season? Sure. But he costs you a wide receiver 4 price for somebody that should be a top 25 if he plays the full season.
I think he actually might be the literal cheapest number 1 wide receiver on a team across the board. And it's not like an argument here either, because sometimes you can look at a guy and you can be like, oh, that guy probably is the number 1. Like, if Juwan Jennings were super healthy, you could look at Pearsall and Jennings and be like, is it really Pearsall? Like, we'd all assume it's Pearsall, but there's a little bit of there's no question about Olave.
Right.
He's like literally the cheapest number 1 that is out there. And there's just, Vele is like an Olave injury away from becoming super valuable, but like he is the guy. So that's a great name. Post-hype sleeper, Jaylen Warren and Chris Olave. You, my friends, should be using the draft assistant during your draft so you don't miss out on the high upside picks or even those post-hype sleepers. Draft Assistant connects directly to your draft and provides both real-time pick suggestions and estimations on which players might get taken before your next pick. Draft Assistant fully integrates your customized cheat sheets and suggests picks based on your rankings, team build, ADP, and just like a ton of other factors. Dominate your draft in real time without the guesswork with Draft Assistant at fantasypros.com/assistant or the Fantasy Pros Football Draft Wizard app. We got the all-in-one app now. Try it for free during your draft by claiming your 3-day trial of Fantasy Pros Premium at fantasypros.com/premium. That's fantasypros.com/premium. The league-winning dart throw. You don't usually put those two words together. Absolute dart throw. But, in theory, the idea is like if they hit, they're a league winner for you. You cheated and you put 2, but
two.
I have talked to the uppers and they will allow it. So who is your league-winning dart throw running back and wide receiver? Because that's what you did.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give everybody one of each. Running back, you've probably, I know you have, others have probably heard me say this name before. It is DJ Giddens. Jonathan Taylor is, you talk about not paying attention to issues here, he's been hurt the last 3 years, each of the last 3 years. And I'm not saying this like, oh my God, he's guaranteed to get hurt because I hate trying to predict injury. But why are we not interested in the backup who's made players like Tyler Goodson relevant, filling in when Jonathan Taylor has been out? Mostly because the Colts, they're not the 49ers, they're not the Rams, but they generally lean on one person and have made that running back at least an RB2. So with the fact that, like, I compared him slightly to David Montgomery, I think he has more passing upside than Giddens. That Giddens does more so than Montgomery, to be clear. And I brought that up to say, if David Montgomery was the backup to Jonathan Taylor, we'd be drafting him in the 8th and 9th round. And that's why I bring up Giddens, because I don't say draft him in the 8th or 9th round, but absolutely, last pick, stash him everywhere you can. And then this one's interesting because of what happened with Keenan Allen. I think we went from Tre Harris being an interesting 9th, 10th rounder as a rookie with the big play upside to now that potential league winner you stash and hold on your bench for 2 reasons. One is Quentin Johnston's now banged up, and Quentin Johnston was playing in front of him. Might still be okay, might still play in front of him, but unless he's fixed all his issues and it still looks like he's got that inconsistency, Harris could eventually step past him. And then what if Keenan Allen goes the way of Tyler Lockett? Like, we're all assuming, like, just because he was on the Bears, that's what was ruining him last year. What if Keenan Allen's just at the end of his career? It's okay to say that. These things happen. Brandon Cooks is clearly off the cliff at this point. What if Keenan Allen's name is now in that group? Tre Harris can step past both and be on the field starting with Ladd McConkey, and now you're looking at a potential top 30 wide receiver.
Boom. You got your names here. Recapping again, you're swinging for the fences, you're high upside, but also high risk. Travis Hunter and Chris Godwin. If you're looking for some post-hype sleepers, we got Jaylen Warren and Chris Olave, and then you're looking for some dart throws that can maybe win your league. How about DJ Giddens and Tre Harris? There you go, Jake Ciely from The Athletic. Make sure you guys are locked in on the Draft Assistant for all your draft prep. We've got everything you're seeing here and a million things more to get you fully prepared for your drafts this weekend. As we always say, draft smarter, not harder. For Jake Ciely, I'm Chris Welsh. We'll talk to you next time right here on Fantasy Pros.